We're excited today to kick off another one of our webinar series here at All Hands. We are the maintainers of the OpenHands open source project. And today we have a great topic around that we are calling Live from the Backlog. What we mean by this is we're going to be using OpenHands today live on the webinar to solve a few bugs and maybe small feature requests that we've seen come through as issues or in our backlog. And we'll see how it works. But hopefully you'll get a flavor of the different interaction models of OpenHands and what you can expect in terms of day-to-day use. So again, thanks everyone for joining. We'll do a quick intro here. First, my name is Joe Pelletier. I'm responsible for the product team here at OpenHands, and excited to be here with y'all. I'll also wanted to introduce Jamie Steinberg. Jamie actually just joined us as our developer relations advocate, and she'll be in the chat in case you have any questions about OpenHands or about the offerings. And we're excited for Jamie to be on the team. And now I'll turn it over to Robert to introduce himself.
Hey folks, I'm Robert Brennan. I'm the CEO here at All Hands and one of the original contributors on OpenHands. I'm excited to do some live demoing for y'all today.
Awesome. And last but not least, we want to introduce OpenHands itself, the AI coding agent. You'll see that as we go through, OpenHands is a very popular contributor to the OpenHands project itself, since it does commit lots of features and bug fixes. So from an agenda today, we will give a quick overview what is OpenHands and just kind of refresh everyone on different interaction modes. We'll share some examples, kind of visual examples of how we use OpenHands, but then spend the rest of the time jumping into sort of a live session to solve some real world bugs and feature requests. And at the end, we'll talk a little bit about our design partnership program as well. So what is OpenHands? OpenHands is the leading open source AI coding agent. The project has been around for a little over a year now, and has over 300 contributors, as well as 60,000 stars on GitHub. And it also, as you'll see, comes in a number of different types of deployment options. And so, at its core, OpenHands really is a kind of a collection of different tools and capabilities coming together in order to deliver, high performing, accurate, coding abilities using kind of modern LLMs like Claude Sonnet 4, for example. And when you integrate things like the browser, the terminal, and a code editor, OpenHands is given these capabilities in order to edit code, to find different files in your workspace, as well as access the web in order to understand additional information and gain additional context. So just at a very high level, we do have kind of two main interaction modes, but you'll also see in this webinar today, there's other ways you can use OpenHands as well through our various different integrations. We'll make a lot of use of our GUI today, which also leverages a Docker runtime for all the agent work. And the GUI is where you're going to see the most feature and functionality of OpenHands. It's really going to provide you with a way to interact with OpenHands, as well as look through all the different types of changes or what the terminal is doing, as well as access things like a VS Code editor. It's really the full power of OpenHands available to you in a web GUI. We also have a CLI, which can run locally. So the great thing about the CLI is it's something that you can download today, run on your local workstation. It'll interact with files on your workstation and also, confirm, provide you with confirmation mode. So before it runs commands, you can also review those commands. But it's another great developer-friendly way to use AI coding agents like OpenHands on your local workstation. And finally, we do have a number of integrations that we're really proud about, and we're continuing to kind of expand into. So we do integrate with a lot of the leading Git providers like Bitbucket, GitLab, GitHub. We also have integrations with Slack, which allow you to utilize OpenHands via OpenHands Cloud, and we'll probably do some of that demo today at some point. So I'm going to turn it over to Robert to share a little bit about how we use OpenHands, and we're just going to go through a couple different examples of what that looks like. So first, I'll have you jump in, Robert.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different use cases for OpenHands. It's almost hard to talk about use cases because it can be used to do pretty much anything that involves code or text. But really simple way to start, just implementing a brand new feature from scratch. So you can see here, Xing Yao wanted to implement a new feature for the CLI, and he was just able to, inside of Slack, say at OpenHands, when the user opens up the CLI, do X, Y, and Z. And you can see OpenHands created a PR. It was under Xing Yao's name, and Xing Yao was able to get that PR merged to actually implement this feature. So just getting a whole new feature implemented from scratch is a great first use case for OpenHands. Greenfield apps are also really fun. This is everybody's favorite because generally agents do very well when there's they're kind of working from scratch and they have a blank slate to start from. So you can see Graham here is asking for just a bare bones JavaScript app with Vite and TypeScript and React. So it's just going to create a little hello world app there. We've also done you can start to iterate on this, right? You can start with just like a basic repo and then add some functionality that you want, things like that. So I would say if you're going to build a complicated app from scratch, you might not necessarily want to try and one-shot it. You might want to try and have like several different conversations with OpenHands to scaffold things out, right? Start with the bare bones, hello world, and then start adding in features as you go. So you can see Graham here just like iterated over 3 different pull requests to get to the end state that he wanted to.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of an interesting flow. Actually, in one of the previous webinars we did, Graham kind of showed how he uses like GitHub issues as sort of a way to organize some of the work. And then by labeling those issues with OpenHands, OpenHands is able to take that context from the issue and then start initiating a pull request with those changes. And so, the way you kind of set up that work, where you kind of, start at a high level to do things like setting up repos and then getting to more finer grain changes really is a kind of an interesting flow for folks who are trying to kind of leverage AI agents across a number of tasks simultaneously.
Yeah, cool. Adding unit tests is one of my favorite use cases here because it's really easy to automate, right? The agent can generate unit tests very well, and it's generally very safe, right? So as long as the tests are passing, it's not going to break your app. So it's pretty easy to just like say add OpenHands and increase the test coverage, and then like eyeball the code and just hit merge. So this is often like a quick win if you find a part of your code base that is lacking in test coverage, things like that. Kicking off a quick OpenHands conversation to improve your test coverage is great. Fixing merge conflicts. There's a bit of a theme here of like there are a lot of like toily tasks that engineers face on a day-to-day basis, like adding unit tests or fixing merge conflicts, things that don't really require a lot of like thought or effort, things that engineers tend to hate to do. Doesn't involve a lot of creativity, right? So these are great use cases for bringing in AI. They tend to be very rote tasks, so the AI tends to do very well. And it's also stuff that you don't really want to do yourself, right? So fixing merge conflicts is one of my favorite use cases for OpenHands. If I've got a PR where someone else has edited the same file as me, I can just say add OpenHands, fix the merge conflicts. It'll actually generally do a better job than I would because it will look at what was the original commit that created the conflict, what was my commit trying to do, and collate that together. Whereas I would just kind of eyeball what the merge conflicts were. So it's a much more robust solution for fixing merge conflicts.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the other things about what we call in this flow is the resolver flow, where you can interact with OpenHands by mentioning it on a PR. It will take in the context around that PR in order to kind of figure out what to do next. So it's not necessarily just limited to the context that you share right here. It can actually take in the full context of that pull request, and that's what really kind of makes it powerful.
Yeah, we did get a question on whether this is supported in open source versus OpenHands Cloud. It's only in the cloud offering because you need a cloud server in order to handle these requests. So you either need to use our SaaS OpenHands Cloud, or we do have a source available commercial instance that you can self-host as well that will support these integrations. Fixing bugs, another good one. I would say about 50% of the time, OpenHands can just like one-shot a solution to a bug, especially if you give it a good amount of context up front. You can see here, OpenHands was pretty easily able to like repro the problem, which means it should be able to fix it pretty easily. So the more guidance you can give it on fixing the bug, if you've got a sense for where the bug is coming from, what function is it in, that kind of stuff, a lot of times OpenHands can just crush it.
This is something we use all the time.
Yeah, addressing PR feedback is great because someone else has already done the work to describe exactly what they want to see done, right? And it's just needs to get implemented, right? So somebody else is like already created your prompt for you. So you can see here, I just said, please address the feedback from my coworker, Stefan. And you can see the bot did exactly what he had asked for. We can't actually see it here, but he very explicitly said, do A, B, C, D, like he gave very clear instructions, and I didn't even have to do any work here. I just had to pull in the agent, point it towards Stefan's very clear instructions, and we were done.
This is actually a pretty cool one. Being able to kind of just answer questions about the code base.
Yeah, so this is an example where we just had OpenHands go and clone a repo and analyze it for us and understand exactly like what's happening here. What would we need to do to implement similar functionality? This is a really cool use case for just doing like quick investigation, quick research, sometimes on your own repo, sometimes on other people's repos, things like that.
And this is the final one on writing docs. I actually think we might have one of these examples today. But one of the things that I think, we often overlook is, I mean, this is at OpenHands, but even just in general, the software development is like you create a feature, but you may forget like to document it or push enough documentation so that users can understand how to use it. OpenHands actually does a really good job, helping you kind of cover your bases there. And there's a number of features that, that we may ship, but have to make sure we revisit later that make sure that the docs are clear and written. And so that's a use case that I think OpenHands can be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, documentation is, again, one of those things that developers often neglect. And so having the AI there to just like pick up that toil off the developer's plate, super helpful.
Cool. So do we want to jump into a couple issues, Robert?
Let's do it.
This is going to be fun. Always the live demo where we get to exercise all aspects of the product and, and see. And hopefully the demo gods are going to be good to us right now.
Yeah, the fun thing is that the GitHub itself is like struggling right now. The GitHub API is failing and issues are failing to load and stuff like that. So hopefully GitHub just works here. Put the wrong link. All right, let's grab a few issues. I'm going to start with the top here. Let's see if we can fix these PyDub warnings. So we've got this issue where when you run the CLI, you get all these like syntax warnings. Now I happen to know that inside of a repo, we have an existing pattern for ignoring warnings. So I'm just going to pop open all hands here. Here's OpenHands. I'm going to pick the OpenHands repo, launch a new conversation. Now it's going to take a second to get my like runtime ready here. And I'll show you all real quick like what's happening in the background. We've customized OpenHands to run this setup script basically every time it starts up a new conversation to install some like initial dependencies for us. So it's going to install pre-commit. It's going to install our pre-commit hooks. And then it's also going to load in these micro agents that just tells OpenHands like this is what this repo is about. Here's a glossary of like terms of art related to our repo, so that if I say something like change the LLM draft config, it knows, okay, it has a general sense of what that is, what it does, etc. All right, so I want to fix this IDub syntax warning. So I'm just going to take the issue link. I'm going to say, check out this issue. We have a pattern for ignoring warnings already. Please ignore these warnings too. We should see OpenHands should try and download that issue. Just check out the text of the issue so it has a little bit more context. You can see it's using curl to check out the issue text. And it's figuring out, okay, where are we doing like warning suppression? Found suppressed warnings.py, right? So it's able to kind of navigate around the repo. I didn't have to give it too much context here. So it's going to chug along. Now I'd say this is probably going to run for about 5 minutes here as it goes about its business, finding the right place to edit, modifying the code. So normally I wouldn't like sit here and babysit the agent. Normally I would figure out what the next thing I want to fix is. Let's do this one. Looked really interesting to me. So we have this issue here where when OpenHands tries to run a command, if it tries to run multiple commands at once, like it tries to write a bash script, like let's see if I have a window here. If it tried to run something like echo hello, echo goodbye, if it tried to run that all at once, it would get an error, and it would be encouraged to just do one command at a time, or to run like and. And what this user is saying is that if OpenHands tries to send a command like print hello, where it has a comment and then the command, this failsafe kicks in and says, oh, you're trying to run multiple commands, even though one of them is just kind of a dummy and just a comment. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask OpenHands to just ignore the comments if we have comment commands. So let's start a new conversation. OpenHands, go. Click back to this guy, see how we're doing here. Making progress. It looks like it's testing its changes now. So it's installing some things. Come back when that's baked. So for this one, I'm going to say, check out this issue. And I'm going to tell it pretty explicitly what I want it to do here, because I already have some context on what's happening. We have logic that splits a command into separate commands and throws an error if there are multiple present. However, as this user points out, we should ignore commands that are comments. And I'm going to do a little like test-driven development here. I'm going to say add a test that triggers the current behavior and make sure it fails. So I'm going to start by just saying, okay, let's add a test that shows that this is happening today. It'll fail, and then we'll know very quickly if we fix the issue or not, and can push it. So it's trying to find where we do this splitting. I believe it is indeed in this bash.py. Found split bash commands. They found the tests for split bash commands. So it's finding its way around the repo. It found out where it's gonna put this this new function. Let's see what happens. I can look. Output isn't formatted very nicely. Let's see if we can see it in the terminal. There we go. Okay, cool. So its tests are failing, so it's happy. I'm going to say pause. Rather than, so it's getting a little overeager here, and it wants to actually try and implement it. I'm going to say push and open a draft PR with just the failing tests. I want to see kind of like what's going on here before we go ahead and actually fix the tests. So you can see I paused OpenHands to like keep it from going too far here. Added a new message, and once I hit send on that new message, OpenHands kicked back into gear with the new context, new instructions.
What about that other conversation? How far are we on the other one?
Yeah, let's see where it's at.
Oh, still working.
Still working.
Do we dare try to use the GitHub resolver?
It's struggling to get the test to pass. So I'm gonna interrupt it and say, push what you've got so far and create an API. I can see here, actually, it created this new, outside of our normal tests, this test PyDev suppression.py. I'm just going to tell it to remove this.
Yeah, that's one thing that OpenHands will do. It will create these like temporary files to do testing. And sometimes, and you may be doing this right now, sometimes I've asked it to just remove any of the unnecessary test files it has created. And it kind of knows what files those are and keeps inventory of it.
Usually if it opens up a PR too, it won't include these extra files. It knows to just add the things that we actually want in the PR.
Yeah. We actually did get a question, Robert, while you were working about writing unit tests. And so does writing unit tests after the code's been implemented reinforce testing and implementation rather than the behavior?
Say it one more time.
So does writing unit tests this way after the code has been implemented reinforce testing the implementation rather than the behavior? And I think it comes from a concern around long-term maintainability, especially if unit tests need to be refactored along with the code, reducing their value.
So just to be clear, in this particular PR, I started with the test, right? I said, okay, let's start with the test
Right.
that is the behavior.
I think the question may have come in when we were talking about adding unit tests,
Got
like
it.
as an afterthought.
Yeah, I mean, I would say test-driven design or test-driven development is a great pattern, but like, I don't know, a lot of times we're just trying to get features out the door, and developers end up writing the implementation, and the tests get like forgotten. So it's nice to be able to add unit tests post hoc, right? Better to write the tests kind of as you're going. But as we know, not all development happens in a perfect vacuum, right? Sometimes there's deadline pressures, sometimes engineers get lazy, things like that. So yeah, I agree. Like there's probably better testing strategies, but some tests are better than no tests. All right, so on this batch stuff, we do have tests now that trigger the failure. So I'm gonna say, okay, now implement the fix for ignoring comments. And in the meantime, the suppress warnings PR is at least up and available. So we can see we indeed added something to suppress warnings here to suppress these PyDub things. I know OpenHands was having trouble running these tests, so we'll see. We'll look at this conversation, or we'll look at this PR. We'll see if the tests end up passing or not. If they pass, this should be pretty safe to merge.
And when OpenHands made that PR, I think it also did a little bit of the linking back to the original issue, right? Yeah, looks like it did.
Correct, yeah.
Yep. So it does a good job sort of keeping tabs on like not just creating a blind PR, like knowing which original issue to link it to. And I think that's kind of, part of sort of the overall experience with OpenHands is whether you use it, you mention it on a PR itself to fix an issue, or use it in the GUI here. It tries to keep things aligned with where the original context came from.
So OpenHands is now trying to fix this split bash commands thing. Tests are still failing though. So it's working its way through it. Looks like it got a little confused here having a duplicate, but it's figuring its way out here. And while this cooks, maybe we can pick up a new issue.
And I just just shared it out the PR that you just pushed, so everyone can see it's real.
So this one, a minor issue came up in the course of discussing this issue, which is that the UI is asking for a key called that starts with SK Tavali, but Tavali's key starts with tvly-dev. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to start an OpenHands conversation. Actually, you know what? Let's show off the GitHub resolver.
Yeah, let's hope that the GitHub
OpenHands.
outage isn't going to affect it right now.
Change the image interface to support a key of TVLY.
And one thing, we've talked about microagents briefly, but in the organization microagent, that's where you define some of the terminology, right, around the project.
So we created we call it glossary.md inside of our microagents directory that just, yeah, it has like 100 terms of art related to our repository, so that if I mention, the Docker runtime, it knows, what that means immediately.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to do a bunch of research and figure out what is the Docker runtime? How does that factor into the application? So you can see I just said add OpenHands on the issue itself. It gave me these little eyes pretty quickly, just so I know, okay, it's on it. And then it gives me a link to a conversation where I can watch it work. So I can click in here if I want to. I can see everything loading up. We should see a conversation just automatically kick off here. Again, I usually don't babysit inside of the conversation. I would usually just like leave this be. OpenHands will eventually comment back and say like, okay, here's what I did, here's how I fixed it, here's the PR that I opened. But we're a little bit more synchronous today, so I'll pop in there so we can watch it work. As you can see, it's looking around for this TVLY string. It's finding it in the internationalization and our translations. Has it found it? Yeah, it looks like I found this Tavily API key example. It looks like maybe somebody might have finished this one. Let's see what OpenHands does, but it looks like maybe somebody fixed this already. In the meantime, these bash commands are passing. Looks like I pushed its changes. So let's see how this looks. Oh. I wanted to, where's the PR? Here's the PR. So let's see what this looks like. So we've got this bash.py. If we scroll up a little bit here, you can see we've split into commands. We're looking for non-comment commands. It looks like it did some interesting behavior here. So if we have no non-comment commands, return the original results. We have exactly one non-comment command, combine all comments with it. It's not really what we wanted. This test looks like it's passing correctly, but I don't love this implementation. This feels like the wrong implementation.
We could take on another issue, or we could tell OpenHands to try to fix it a certain way.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a pretty typical process, right? So this is a tricky part of the code base. We've asked OpenHands to implement a fix. It did a good job, right? It got its test to pass. But the same way I might look at another engineer's implementation of a fix, I'm going to look at OpenHands implementation of a fix with a keen eye here and say, maybe this isn't the right solution. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, it definitely doesn't belong in escape bash special characters, right? Like that's not a reasonable place to put this. At OpenHands, so I think what we need to do is the split bash commands function itself should only return the non-comment commands. Rather than every time we do split bash commands having to filter out the non-comment commands. So I'm going to say change the implementation here. Make it so that split bash commands only returns non-comment commands. That way we don't have to filter everywhere it gets caught. And so again, just same way I would leave a code review comment on somebody's PR, I'm going to invoke OpenHands here, just like a comment on its PR. We should see those little eyeballs. I think inline comments don't refresh automatically in GitHub, so let's refresh here. Yeah, so OpenHands hacked me, and it's gonna work on this one. Let's see what's going on with the Tableau API key here. What did it actually change? Nope.
As Robert looks to see what's going on here, we have a question about models that we use with OpenHands. Obviously with OpenHands local, the open source, you can bring your own LLM key. With OpenHands Cloud, we utilize Claude Sonnet 4. That's actually the model right now that I think we're seeing kind of the best results with. However, even just in the past week or so, there's been a lot of like new models introduced that are also kind of demonstrating kind of good performance against benchmarks like SweetBench. I think those include things like GPT-5 recently, as well as Qwen 3 Coder. There are some new models out there that might be interesting to try out. And with regards to OpenHands Cloud and bring your own LLM key, we are actually working on that as we speak. We're hoping to hopefully announce something in the coming few weeks that would allow you to bring your own LLM key as well as take advantage of model choice. We did actually announce an OpenHands LLM provider as one of our first steps towards that. And that's another way to kind of utilize different models that OpenHands has kind of tested with as part of while also leveraging your OpenHands credit balance. So I can send you a link to that.
Cool. So in this example, OpenHands discovered that this issue appears to already be fixed. This SK Tavily thing was is no longer in the code base. It got a little overzealous here and tried to like implement some changes, but like these seem like maybe good ideas to we didn't really need this as a translation if they're all the same key. But I'm just going to ignore this one and call it already fixed. So I'm just going to throw this conversation away.
Cool.
Those might have been interesting changes to make, but we don't really need them.
Do you have one more quick one that you want to show? Or yeah, it's up to you. I mean, I think we have maybe like 5 or 6 more minutes for some additional demo.
Cool. So just showing here, OpenHands is working on that comment I made, criticizing its implementation of this bash comment ignorer. Let's see if there's another really quick one. Let's do a pet one of mine that we don't actually have an open issue for. This integrations page is missing our GitLab and Bitbucket integrations, and like it's a little sparse here, right? I think we could do a better job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send OpenHands a screenshot of this and just ask it to fix up that page a little bit. So I can click this little attachment, put in a little screenshot, and I'm going to say, please add buttons here for GitLab and Bitbucket. Clean up the spacing on the page.
And we do actually have a PR for that coming soon too, Robert.
Oh, nice.
But you might jump the gun and get it in first.
To get panels. Give OpenHands a second to start up here. We need to get our setup.sh running a little faster. So you can see it got the screenshot, and it can it'll use that to figure out like where in the code base does it need to be, what exactly am I talking about as it relates to these spacing issues, things like that. So we don't need to, I guess how much time do we have, Joe? Should we leave it here?
I think we can probably leave it here actually, because we want to give a couple more minutes for any additional Q&A. So if you'd like, I can take over and share a little bit about our design partnership program, and then we can open it for Q&A.
Great.
So we just go share the screen here. So the last thing we wanted to kind of talk about, well, before we do this, I first just want to thank Robert for giving us that live demo. Obviously, there's a lot of good first issues as well in OpenHands repo. So if you search for issues with the label good first issue, you'll find a bunch of great ones to kind of get started and try to understand the code base, but also solve real problems. We tried to look at some pretty fresh issues today in order to kind of show you how we go through our workflow to fix various bugs. One of the things, though, that we also wanted to share is our design partnership program, which is a way to kind of work with OpenHands and our team here at All Hands on kind of the future of AI coding. And so the first thing I want to kind of give you a sense of is today we've talked a lot about a few different things. We've talked about the open source project and fixes we were making today against the open source. We also talked a little bit about OpenHands Cloud, which is our cloud offering around around OpenHands, which allows you to use OpenHands kind of from in a hosted way, so that you don't have to manage your own runtimes and you don't have to run your own infrastructure. You can also leverage OpenHands Cloud, and it provides a few other kind of integrations like Slack and GitLab. We also have an OpenHands self-hosted offering where you can run the cloud offering on premise. So we have a few different ways that you can utilize OpenHands, and we're seeing a lot of interest across the board on these different offerings, which is why we decided to open up a design partnership program, which is a way for kind of organizations and companies who want to evaluate AI coding agents can work with us in sort of a 60 to 90-day evaluation period. And during that time, we leverage a lot of the feedback that you might provide about the product. And we use that to prioritize that feedback into the offering so that you can kind of get features and functionality that make the most sense for your organization. And we typically work with companies where there's multiple developers or multiple teams that are looking to leverage AI coding agents. So this is a great opportunity, I guess, if you're still kind of early in your journey here and want to be able to kind of influence sort of our direction. Great opportunity for you to join that. And if you're interested, you can reach out to myself or Robert at Joe at allhands.dev or Robert at allhands.dev, and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you. So at that point, I think we'll kind of go over for Q&A and see if there's any additional questions that we can help with right now. Let's see. I think one of them, we had a question. Oh, we got a Q&A here that just came in. How do we differentiate OpenHands versus other solutions like Claude Code?
Yeah, so
yep, good.
Claude Code right now tends to be really just CLI, right? And we do have a CLI offering, but we're very cloud-based. Our agents tend to be much more asynchronous and much more autonomous, right? So if you're using Claude Code on your command line, it's going to ask you all the time, like, can I run this command? Can I do X, Y, and Z? Which is important because it's running those commands on your workstation, right? There's nothing preventing it from running like rmrf on your home directory and blowing up your whole laptop. Whereas with OpenHands, by default, everything's running in a sandbox, usually inside of a cloud environment. So if it tries to run a dangerous command like that, it's not going to break anything. And so our agents can just kind of run in the background without you needing to interfere with them or babysit them as they're going along. I would say also relative to Claude Code, the fact that we're open source and the fact that we're model agnostic is generally very helpful. For instance, OpenAI just released a model that seems to outperform Claude on software engineering tasks. And so with OpenHands, you can switch between models. You can switch over to OpenAI and get the latest and greatest without having to change your whole developer experience, right? You don't have to rip out everything you've built around Claude Code if you're building around OpenHands instead.
Cool. Looks like we might have another question around, I'm already using Claude Code, Sonnet 4.1, and experimenting with Gemini CLI. Why would I switch to OpenHands?
Yeah, so similar answer here, right? Like you're experimenting with those two to see which one's better. I think you'll have a much easier time if you're using OpenHands for like the end developer experience and then switching between Gemini and Claude as the model choice powering that agent, right? That way you can have a consistent developer experience, but swap models really easily and not have to like every time you want to swap the underlying model, completely change your entire developer experience. And I think that's going to be important as models continue to leapfrog each other in terms of abilities here.
And then the other one is, how do we compare to open code? I think it's actually similar to the Claude Code example. I mean, open code is, my understanding, it is open source, but it is a CLI form factor. I'm not sure if they offer the GUI experience as well. But overall, I think it's great to see, more open source AI, coding options out there. We think that open source is a big, part of where AI coding agents are going to be going in the future. There's a lot of benefit to being open source in terms of being able to kind of help, understand what our developers need in order to be successful, but also to, invite lots of contributions. But I think because they're a CLI form factor, they're similar to OpenHands probably because of, we also offer a CLI. but maybe a little bit different in that they don't have sort of the GUI or the, I'm not sure if they use a Docker runtime either on the GUI side.
Yeah, it is a crowded space. There's a lot of options in front of folks. I would just recommend that folks lean towards open source. That tends to survive in the long run. And there's a few different open source projects out there. I'd say we're leading the pack though, and leading towards being model agnostic. I think that's going to become more and more important as these models get better and better, rather than buying into like a vertically monopolized platform here where one company is controlling the model and the dev interface.
Cool. Well, I think that's probably what we had for today. So I thanks everyone for the conversations, and we're looking forward to kind of staying in touch through our open source community and through the GitHub project. And with that, I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks all. This was fun.